Testing, testing. Hey, I see something. Maybe if I get it a little closer. Okay, I don't want to test anymore. You have no idea. I've been testing this damn wireless microphone for the last half hour, and it's been giving me mixed results. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So I'm a little frustrated with that, but never mind. This is my intro, my first ever podcast. Hopefully, the first of many. Originally I was thinking I'm gonna do like 3 or 4 hours, just like Joe Rogan, but wouldn't make any sense. I'm pretty much broadcasting to no one in the hopes that eventually someone will hear it. Someone will be like, hey, there's value in that. Or I'll be terrible, but eventually, from practicing, I'll get better. And then someone might see some value in going back to the to the very beginning. Um, let's see. I'm it's late at night, so I'm pretty much going to do this for an hour, and then I'm going to go straight to sleep. I don't have an intro right now, but I'm actually working on one on GarageBand. I actually just saw. I mean, I've seen it, right? It's on my iPhone, but I never used it, and I don't know why. I was just messing around with it, and I saw some really amazing stuff that lets you just make your own tunes. I mean, you're if you know how to play the piano, then it kind of lets you play every other instrument in a similar fashion, and even mixing some dubstep and techno music. That was a lot of fun. I can't wait to show my daughter tomorrow. Okay, so I think the mistake of every amateur is trying to speedway run through whatever they're doing, just to get it over with. Like, especially if you're going to be talking in front of a lot of people. I never had that problem. When I took a class in giving speeches as a speech class, um, I knew that we had to kind of stall for time, right? The project was a 10-minute speech. Well, you can't run through, what you want to say. You really have to take your time there, you know. Better that you go over 10 minutes than under. I'm not going to say I've always been like that. I remember when I was in primary school, and if I had to be in front of everybody in class, I hated that. I just felt nervous. But as I got older, I mean, what do I care? I don't know any of them. So I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. Like this right now is obviously for me. But hopefully there'll be some positive results out of it for someone else. Whether it's entertainment or maybe realizing that somebody else has something in common with you as well that maybe you thought nobody did. Um, I've felt like that many times in my life. I've felt like this thing that's happening to me is only happening to me. Theoretically, I'm sure, I guess, it happens to other people, but I don't know those people. So it's just theoretical. Uh, I don't know anybody that goes through the stuff like this. So maybe sharing, be able to, I don't know, feel a connection with the rest of humanity. Um, English is not my first language, but it's the one I've practiced the most, and it's the one I understand the best. But if I don't say things like a native English speaker or an English only speaker, well, now you know why. That and I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. um, I won't say that I'm the smartest, but I know I'm not the dumbest. So I've lived a pretty big life. I've had a lot of experiences, and I don't know. I don't feel. Well, I'm not gonna brag like, oh, I'm such a genius, 'cause I'm not. I've met actual geniuses, and I know what the difference is between me and them. And it's not what you think. It really isn't. Honestly, from what I've seen, a genius can just memorize things a lot better than I can. That's about it. That's I think the difference between a genius and most people. They memorize shit a lot better than the rest of us. Does that mean they can't make a mistake? No, because they can and they do. Especially, you got to consider the fact that if they're so smart, quote unquote smart, um, they probably have a big ego from hearing it all their lives how smart they are, which means that they're less likely to believe they're wrong when they are. So, to me, a smart person is somebody that can learn from their mistakes. That's it. That's a smart person. Keep making the same mistake? Well, you're not smart. um, and some people are just slow, right? They make the same mistake over and over again, but eventually they get it. And yeah, they can still be smart. Slow, but smart. Why not? I think I'm in that category. I'm slow, but I tend to see things at a different angle than most people from a different perspective. You know, I'll consider things in a way that it seems a lot of people don't. And then there's the flip side to that, which is sometimes I won't consider things the way other people do until much later on. Anyways, let me go back. I actually wrote down a list. First things first. I already told you that I don't have a musical intro, but I'm gonna work on that little GarageBand app. It looks so awesome. I'm gonna work with my daughter with that on that tomorrow. I'm sure she'll love it. I actually wrote something of like a greetings, right? Sort of helping me, reminding me that I should have manners when talking to a bunch of people, even if I'm talking to no one, right? If anybody ever even hears this at all, I think it's just common sense, manners, right? Hello, greetings, right? So I wrote down good morning, but it's not. It's nighttime. I'm about to sleep. So, good evening, good night. Hope you're having a a great end of your day. Okay, today is July 14th at night, very late at night. You're listening to The Brave Traveler. I'm your host, IR. Now, IR is the initials to my name, and The Brave Traveler is what my last name means, right? So, since I am a dad, and today we seem to be living in a very strange time where freedom of speech seems to be more like a suggestion or a privilege that only those who can afford it get to have. Um, People are getting canceled left and right. People are being demonized left and right. And I know too many cases where people tried to make a difference, tried to get some vital, crucial information, the truth, the sincere and honest, uncut, unedited truth out there for the people to wake up, escape the matrix, escape the simulation that we're living in. And they were not received very well. They were shut down and shut up by being called anti this or that, hate speech, denier of this or that, racist, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on and on and on. Every name you can think of that somebody could use against somebody else to shut them up, to make sure that nobody would hear what they have to say, to boycott them, was used. Now, I've always found it strange when they overtly do something that doesn't seem like the obvious action to do without explaining it well to the public. Like, for example, I thought it's so weird that, not even sure if I could say any of this stuff without getting canceled. I did research for like 2 months as to like what I could say, and it's tricky. It's tricky because I see a very few amount of people that have the gall to just go ahead and straight up say these things without worrying about repercussions. Like Candace Owens is one of those people. I think it was a week ago, about a week ago, maybe 2. She put up a video about a certain war and some certain government stuff that was created after a certain war that I can't really mention. I think. Again, I don't know. Great video. Amazing. Very informative stuff. And I think it wasn't even a day. And the video got taken down. It was still in my history. And I clicked on it. And they're like, oh no, because of copyright infringement. Oh, please. Such BS. I knew what it was. There's a big war that happened a long time ago, last century, and it changed everything. And I don't think that most people know the reasons why. They're told it was because of something else. Good guys versus the bad guys. It's funny how we accept that, right? Because we were all taught about it in, I think it was primary school. Yeah. And so we don't question it. We just kind of think like, oh yeah, I know about that. Yeah, we were the good guys. We never question why we don't fully understand, why we can't fully explain it, why our explanations, or the ones that come to mind, are always just these simplistic, because they were bad, they were hateful people, and we did something about it. But maybe there's more to that story, right? What can I say? What can I tell you without being canceled or ostracized for the rest of my life like so many other people? People that were there and after the war tried to tell people what actually happened. I'll get off that topic because, yeah, I'm still not even sure, you know, if I ever want to have the possibility of even being monetized. There's certain things I just can't say. I'll try my best to point you in the right direction, though, because I think that you deserve to have that choice. If you don't know the truth for whatever reason that might be, it's a choice. You either just don't really feel like looking deeper into it because there's a part of you that says you're not going to like what you find. And I'm here to tell you, yeah, that's right. I didn't. For a long time, I wanted to believe this this can't be real. This can't be the truth. There's no way anybody could get away with this. Something this big? Come on. No. And yet, we all have probably heard about the Napoleon quote where he says, "What is history? What is history but a fairy tale we agree on?" So we know that the victors write the history books, right? And if they so choose, they can disparage the fuck out of the person that out of the side that lost. It's funny that we all kind of know that politicians lie, leaders lie and manipulate, and there's corruption very up high. And yet we still fall for the big stuff. We still we still can't step back and look at the big picture and see how wrong it is. I think a lot of us have allowed these groups of hidden occult groups take over without realizing it. They've sort of been grooming us for decades, prepping us, goading us into, lulling us into a slumber of compliance. I think that I think what they do, their tactic, from what I've noticed, is that they'll make things seem really cute, really positive, when it's super horrible. They'll come up with stories, they'll pick an event, they'll highlight it, and then use it as a mascot for their hidden agenda, which is to make everything worse. And I know what you're thinking, like, come on now, that's crazy. They don't want to make things worse. Wake up. Are you kidding me? Have you been paying attention the last few years? Things are things are getting worse. They're not getting better. We're not getting more rights, we're getting less rights. We're not becoming healthier, we're They're getting dumber. They're getting away with murder. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because, like I said before, it might not be good for me. And I don't think I'm the most important person in the world, but to me, my daughter is. I love her, which makes me happy, and that's my reason to keep going and to keep trying. So if I didn't have her, yeah, I don't think I'd care about anything. So it's because of her that I care. I care to be around. I care to be able to provide for her whatever she needs, you know? Should have said this a really long time ago. So unprofessional. Sorry. A disclaimer for parents. As much as I want you to keep listening to me, even if you have your kid with you, or I don't know, you're driving a commute and you got your kids with you, or whatever, don't. I will curse sometimes. I mean, I'm not gonna get explicit. I'm not gonna be like. I may talk about intimacies, but it's not on the schedule. You know what I mean? It's not on the agenda. I'm not thinking about, like, oh yeah, I can't wait to talk about this. No, not at all. If it comes up, it'll be organic and it won't be overly explicit. Um, I'm not going to get cynical and say, well, I mean, it's not going to be like the other stuff you might see on television where it's just grinding and commercials showing women in thongs and stuff like that. No, I know that as a parent, you still want to be able to control what your kids hear. I do. So, if you're cool with some language, I'm still going to give a heads up, like maybe if that intimacy story comes up for whatever reason, I'll tell you, give me 10 minutes. Change the channel. Listen to something else. Give me 10 minutes. Wait a second. This is a podcast, not a radio station. Okay. Never mind. Let me rethink that. Okay. Not give me 10 minutes, but fast forward 10 minutes. Jeez. Isn't that great? This is a podcast. You can fast forward if you want to. Genius. Brilliant. Love it. But, anyways, I just felt I had to say that because when I was a kid, my hippie parents were cool with me watching South Park, staying up and watching whatever was on the television at the time, which is horrible. It's the worst. I saw movies like The Toxic Avenger when I was like 12. I'm gonna say around 12. I saw a lot of stuff I shouldn't have. I saw The Exorcist. I saw Hellraiser. I kept watching South Park. I would watch Howard Stern. I mean, just the worst things you could let a kid at 12 watch. Yeah, I saw all that. And I really shouldn't have. I mean, I love Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I think they're just brilliant. I love their style of comedy. It's so freaking sarcastic, like heavy sarcasm. But I don't think I've laughed so much, you know? Like I think the funniest thing I've ever seen besides Tom Green's Freddy Got Fingered was Trey Parker and Matt Stone's Team America World Police. I don't know why, but the the vomit scene where the main character, I guess he's like drunk, can't remember. He's like in an alley and he's like puking, but you think he's gonna stop puking and he just keeps puking. It's so stupid. It's so stupid and absurd and silly, and that was the type of shit I grew up on. Looney Tunes, Ren and Stimpy, Beavis and Butthead, South Park. Of course, I'm gonna love the puking scene. I was laughing so hard, I was kicking the chair in front of me at the theater. Yeah, and I was too young to be at that movie. Um, I actually sneaked into the South Park movie as well. And I remember I went to the theater with my dad, and they were telling us that I was too young to see it, and I was like, "What the fuck, man? Come on! I'm gonna watch this fucking movie." And my dad, being the liberal hippie that he is, even though he always votes Democrat, um, he stood up for me. He's like, "No, let him watch it." And the guy at the theater, he was like, he thought my dad was gonna watch it with me. He clearly didn't see the movie tickets. I got I got to enjoy that shit all on my own. I don't think I would have enjoyed it very much seeing well, you can imagine. If you saw that movie, you know. You know what you see in that movie. I love that movie. I thought it was such a perfect movie. Like even the stupidest shit, like getting to see Kenny's face felt like, oh my god, it finally it happened. And it's like it's just another one of those doodles. Duh. But I loved it. It was great. It was a great movie. I hate. Well, nah, now I don't care. Honestly, I don't give a shit anymore. But I hated that I would have loved a sequel. Although I'm kind of glad that there wasn't a sequel because I think it was a great movie. I think it was a perfect movie. It was over the top obscene, but I mean, that's South Park. But the story and everything was great. It was one of my favorite movies um, at that age when I was young. Now, I'm sure I would still enjoy it, but it's not the type of movie that I would like buy and proudly show off in my collection. Like, look, guess what I own? No. Now that I'm older, movies in my collection would be like Seven Samurais. I think that's what it's called. Seven Samurai. Seven Samurais by Akira Kurosawa. I think that's his name. Love that movie. It's like 3 hours, but it's such a human movie. I don't know. It feels. I don't know. None of it felt phony. It the editing, the acting, the story. Yeah, it's a great movie. Another one would be Peter Sellers being there. Love that movie, man. It's like one of the best movies ever. Um, some other ones, but we'll get to it in a different episode. For this episode, I pretty much just wanted to sort of give you a variety of what to expect, I guess. Not really focused on one topic or another, but just sort of reviewing or briefly touching on all of them a little bit. Oh, I didn't even finish reading the greetings. It says, I hope you're doing well. And if not, don't think about it. Fake it till you make it. Just think about your ideal self and pretend to be that. Think and look at things like that version of yourself. Trust me, it'll steer you in that direction. It's true. It's true, but I think that's kind of a morning pep talk, not a, okay, good night. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, now you're ready to sleep. Let's see. It also says, talk about what's going on in my life, talk about what's going on in the news, and do not talk about these topics, which I'm not even going to mention because, yup. Okay. All right, let's see. A little bit about my bio. Well, I I I grew up in Mexico. I wasn't born in Mexico. I was born in the United States. But I grew up in Mexico because I have two Mexican parents. One is white and one is not. And in the United States, it was very different. But I was still in primary school, in elementary school. And I don't want to do a deep dive on my past. It would take a very long time. Instead, let me just say that I don't know why my friggin' parents thought it would be a good idea to take me out of the culture, the only culture that they knew, that they grew up in, and put me into a different culture, a different language that they weren't even familiar with. I mean, they knew about it, but they didn't understand it. All right, they weren't fluent. They uh, they didn't feel comfortable using English, and they weren't about to adapt to the different culture. You know, they pretty much just moved to a different country, but kept their culture. And here's the thing: they didn't pass it down to me. No, they didn't play any Spanish music. They didn't show me any Spanish movies. So obviously, since I had to learn English and I was watching English television and I was adapting to the culture. And, but it was pretty painfully obvious that I didn't fit here or there. I was an in betweener. And my parents, they came from large families. Like my grandparents on both sides had 10 kids, you know, on the one side and on the other side there was 10 kids. So my parents had 9 siblings, both of them. And you can just imagine what kind of upbringing that would be. Tons of negligence. And so my parents were some of the most fucking negligent, good people, but fucking negligent. Um, my dad would work every day. Every day that I knew him, he was working. So that was very admirable. And when my dad would be at work, my mom would go to her mother's and just leave me at home. Ah, thanks, Mom. It's fine. Oh well. I think that trauma can fuck you up. Yes, of course. But if you get over it, I think it can also toughen you up and maybe even smarten you up. Now, if you were lucky enough that you had your parents holding your hand the entire time and teach you everything that you needed to learn, wonderful. But if you weren't, life will teach you the stuff you need to know sooner or later, regardless of your parents being there for you or not. Okay, so from that very not loving upbringing, can you imagine what happened? I became extremely rebellious. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in bizarro world where everything is fucking backwards. The shit that doesn't make sense, no one knows why. If you ask a question, you'll realize that they don't fucking know either. You know, like, why is this like this? And they'll answer you with the same thing you just asked. Like, that's the reason, that's the explanation. Why is this like this? Because it's like this. Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. No, doesn't make sense. And I think it's so weird how there's a lot of people that don't question when something doesn't make sense. They just kind of accept it at face value. This is like this now. Oh, okay. It's like, really? You don't think to ask, hey, why? Why is it like this now? Wasn't like that before. Yeah, well, before it was stupid and now it's good. Fuck you. Sorry, but honestly, when shit keeps fucking changing all the fucking time, don't you think that, hey, that version from before, the one I liked, if that one was wrong, doesn't that mean this one's probably wrong too? Because they keep changing it, you know? Nothing's staying the same. Everything's just constantly changing. Shouldn't that tell you that they don't have the answers? Or do they? Now, I personally think that they do have the answers, and I think that they run things the way they do to keep everybody unstable, out of balance, keep us sort of chasing that utopian dream, but it's like a carrot on a string, you know. Keeps looking like you're getting closer to it, but it's always out of reach. That's my assumption. Plus, it separates you from the last generation, so you don't hear anything they have to say as good advice, because what the fuck do they know? I mean, I've seen it in the new people, as I call them. I don't know what the fuck they call themselves, Gen Z or some shit like that. We're growing up in such a different way that well, they think they're at the front line of evolution, right? They think, oh, your ideas are so outdated. What the fuck do you know? When in reality, I mean, I look at them and I think like, oh, wow, if you only knew, you'd be like, shit, I'm an idiot. Thankfully for them, they don't know. Take that back. I wish they did know. I wish they knew how fucked up and disgusting their online dating app shit is. But this is a little secret, and I'm hopefully, They can get away with saying it. Look into parasites. Look into it. I think it was either a year or two ago that a YouTube channel by the name of Mind Unveiled put out a video on demons being parasites. And I remember watching that video and thinking, that's pretty fucking interesting that they've known this for hundreds of years, and yet I've never heard about it. You would think, as important, as fucking important as this shit is, that everybody would be a fucking expert in parasites, on how to prevent them, on how to weaken them or turn them dormant if you got them, on how to recognize the symptoms. Because sure, everybody knows that parasites exist and blah, blah, blah. Not to me, other people, not me. But do people even realize where parasites tend to house? Yes, there's exterior parasites like fungal infections, but the interior ones, the ones inside you. So they go for your intestines. The small intestine, which is the long one, yeah, right there. So even if you get a high colonic and you get some out, you're not going to get the other ones. They're fine. They're in there. That small intestine is so freaking long, you're not going to get them. So the only thing you can do is know how to eat a proper diet that they don't enjoy. And that's a lot of self-control. I'll tell you right now what they don't like. They don't like ginger root. They don't like cayenne pepper. What is it? Garlic. Black walnut extract. Oregano oil. Be careful with oregano oil. That shit is potent. If it's too strong for you, then just incorporate oregano into your diet regularly. Like the dry leaves oregano, I'm sure you can handle that. Lemon. A lot of lemon. Lime. That's a good healthy dose of vitamin C. So, okay. If you start to research, because it'll take you some time, because remember, bad guys are in charge right now. I think that, and I've read the Bible twice, read Genesis 3 times, and I've seen a lot of videos that are on YouTube that are commenting on how the apocalypse in Revelations already happened. And I remember when I first read Revelations, I thought I got that same feeling. And it was a long time ago that I read it for the first time. And I got that feeling like, what if this already happened? And I'm not going to tell you what to believe. And I would never want anybody to outright believe what I'm saying. If anything, I want you to doubt what you know and look up this new information with an open mind. I'm not making any of this up. I don't have to. There is enough information out there. They just don't put a spotlight on it. That's the thing. That's the thing that always feels odd to me, you know? Because on the one hand, there's these people that want to control information, so they'll shine a spotlight on their misinformation and not on the actual truth, not on the useful stuff. But the useful stuff still exists. So either they're eventually going to get rid of all of it, or this really is some kind of game that I I don't know what the fuck it's for, but I do believe that everything in life is a choice, a real choice. You can choose the bad stuff that happens to you, whether you realize it or not. And I think that most people don't realize it and let it happen. But it's a choice, right? It's a choice to look this information up, to keep an eye out, keep an ear open, and just sort of be open minded. Parasites don't just go for your intestines, they go for your heart and they go for your brain. Yes, they can go for a bunch of other places as well, but those are the three main places that they want to go for because your brain has neurons. Neurons control you, right? Neurons are the electrical fibers that just, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but I do know that that's what they do. They control your body. Guess what? Your heart has neurons. Now, they've known this for a very long time in other cultures, right? The Taoists, the Buddhists, the Indians with the chakras and all that. It's real. You have energy that comes from your body. I remember like 2 years ago, yeah, or a year ago, I was out running, and of course, when you're running, your temperature's going to go up. Where do you think I felt the heat coming from? My chest, my heart. So yeah, there's energy. I don't know, power sources, energy plants inside your body. Those are the chakras. Chinese people and Japanese people, they know all about that stuff. They don't teach us that over here. We look at that like, what nonsense! We need scientific stuff. Right, scientific. The Latin version of scientific. And yeah, you can look that one up too if you want. Yeah, you'll be surprised at what you find. There's neurons in your heart. There's neurons in your small intestine. What the fuck, right? You might think, like, how is that possible? You mean we have three brains? Correct. Exactly. From the research I've done, there's enough neurons in your gut comparable to the amount of neurons in a dog's brain. Now, I don't know too much about the neurons in the heart because um, information in the US says that they barely discovered this. Right. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not for nothing that since always you'll hear go with your gut instinct. Listen to your heart. Yeah, I think that we got three brains. I think that what the brain actually is might have nothing to do with what we think it is for. Like, I can't even say it. My theory. Of course, I don't know. What do I know? but I've had a ton of hunches, and I've never been wrong about these these weird hunches that I shouldn't even be able to know. Like, what do I know? No genius. Time will go by, and life will prove that I was absolutely 100% right. These parasites, if you look at what they actually look like under a special microscope, you might realize that, hey, they do look like fucking demonic monsters. Yeah, absolutely. I think our childhood fears were always looking for giant monsters like a whale size or a lion or an elephant, and so we put our guard down completely when it comes to these tiny little fucking things, cuz how dangerous can that shit be? Well, pretty fucking dangerous. Do some research on parasites. You'll you'll see a similar pattern. They always manipulate the host into doing the opposite of what is conducive for a positive lifestyle. And eventually making them self sabotage until they're dead. Whether it's eating a lot of food that you know isn't good for you, whether it's going and pairing up with partners that are the total opposite of what you would actually want to be with, or whether it's going in the opposite direction of your dreams, your goals. You're not working towards them, you're working away from them, from ever achieving them. Now, these little bastards are plasma substance. So they're kind of like boogery and wet. So you will transmit them, you'll get them, and you'll give them when there is contact with wet things. So you're barefoot. Wear some fucking socks. I know how good it feels to be barefoot outside when you're in the dirt. Beautiful. Right. But don't ignore that. The fact that it's how they go from one host to another. They use water. They use liquid, you know. And this can be anything that's wet. It can be bodily fluids, right? Sweat, saliva, tears, semen, vaginal secretion, urine, or even dirty water, you know? To be really careful. Be really careful when you're using a public restroom and you have to sit down or you have to touch something and it's wet. Now, I'm not trying to turn you into a hypochondriac or to scare you into being just paranoid. You just need to be prepared. You need to be careful. You know, I mean, if you feel there's no way to avoid it, then take note of what you should be eating and stop eating the stuff that you know isn't good for you, stuff that isn't making you healthy. Smoking, junk food, fast food. Uh, Vaping? Yeah, that's fucking shit. I actually tried vaping when it first came out, and I thought, hey, this is better than the cigarette because I can run. I can run when I vape. I can't fucking run after I smoked a cigarette. Like the next day, I'll feel like shit. I remember a long time ago, I went out with some friends and I had a pack of cigarettes. The next day, I was at the gym running as usual. I felt sick. I couldn't do it. But with vaping, I didn't have that. I could run all I wanted and be fine. Then then there was another change for the better. There's a very strong campaign against these first types of vape, and they disappeared. I hadn't used vape in a really long time, and then I thought I'd try it again, just something to do when I when I was on break from work or something. I just felt like it, especially because at the job I was at, everybody was smoking cigarettes, and I didn't want to because I still have that clear memory of what smoking did to my lungs that I couldn't physically achieve certain outcomes anymore, like running. So I got the vape thinking that, from my previous experience with vape, that it would be fine. Boy, was I wrong. I was getting shortness of breath. I was sluggish. I mean, and of course, I would ask the guy, "Can I get the vape that has zero nicotine?" And they're like, "Oh no, you want zero nicotine? Well, you need a different machine. You need the one that costs a lot more." So I was like, since since it wasn't something I wanted to do as a change of lifestyle, I didn't want to just all of a sudden I vape from now on. I didn't want to invest that much. So I went for the cheaper vape, the more disposable looking thing. And of course, they never had any 0% nicotine. Like I would have been fine with just flavor, which is not good for you either, right? Because it's some kind of a sugar. And if it's not a sugar, it's a substitute for sugar because it's still sweet, which is still bad. And it could even be worse if it's like shit like aspartame, which gives you holes in your brain. Oh boy. So stay away from sugar. Those fucking little parasite demons or whatever the hell they are. They love that. It's like energy for them. Actually, I don't even know if they like it or they know it's bad for us. Because, like I said, and please, I encourage you, look into this. And don't stop at the first suggestion your search engine gives you. It's going to take some time, but you're going to see eventually a lot of information if you keep an eye out on this that parasites are more than likely demons. Even the stuff that the Vatican took out of the Bible, it's referenced in the Essene Gospel. So, and I encourage you to look for that one video on YouTube by Mind Unveiled, where he talks about the parasite demons. You'll be amazed by that stuff. It'll change your life. You'll thank me later. Well, I didn't get to everything on today's episode because I actually wanted to address some of the stuff on the news that happened just yesterday. It's not funny, but then again, I don't know if it's real or not. And, well, you might know what I'm talking about. If not, doesn't matter. It's fine. Talk about it a different day. I just want to thank everyone who actually took the time to listen to this, even if it happens years after I actually recorded it. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and I hope that I provided you with good information or even just entertainment or even just something to listen to while you were doing something else. You're welcome. And thank you. I hope our paths cross again. Have a good night.